Hello, hello. Happy Friday. Just gotta get my chairs in order here. Thanks for stopping in. Thanks for stopping by. I am going to be inking a bit today. So, I'm kind of playing around with my scheduling for the live streams lately. I'm going to try to change them up a bit and do these from 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock, 11 to noon, Mondays and Fridays. Having said that, I'm on here. I logged in at 10:53, so I'm trying to get a consistent schedule in order. My goal, of course, is to have something really worthy to live stream, and I feel like doing the daily live stream was a bit of a challenge for me. I am inking Doctor Who this morning. Just typing in some photo reference for that. There we go. This has been kind of a slow-moving project. So I'm trying to gather up my references for Doctor Who. Tom Baker, Doctor Who. Gotta grab my pencil. I also think I need to work on his face just a little bit more. Just don't feel like it's quite there yet. I think a big problem is the shading. So I'm going to change the light source a bit. And since this light is coming from behind him, I'm going to have more shadow on his face, like in the center here. There are a lot of photo references online of Tom Baker. I'm trying not to just make it so super photorealistic, like it's literally traced from a photo. You know, this is still comic book art, so I really want to retain my style with this as well. And I felt like his face was a little too soft. And he does have kind of a angular features, so I want to really accentuate that a bit. Yeah, it's very thin eyebrows. All right, I think that's better. Here we go. No going back now. I'm committed to inking Tom Baker Doctor Who. No pressure. So this item will be for sale over at my eBay store when it's completed. I'm probably going to do a color version of this as well. I typically sell the original art with a color print. It's on a glossy really super high quality glossy photo paper, and of course the original comic art as well as a set. And then sometimes I will sell art prints of the original art later, and they are numbered. They're limited edition. So if you miss out on owning the original, you can get an art print of it, which looks almost identical to the original art. It's printed on 2-ply Bristol. It retains all of the blue lines beneath the inked lines with the comic board template. It's a pretty cool art print, and it's a fraction of the cost of the original, so it's pretty good deal. Gotta go back to my channel here. It's so difficult to navigate this thing. Stream manager. Alright. Oh. Dogs are riled up about something. Fortunately, I have most of my Christmas shopping done. I've got one more thing to do, and I actually have to go to the mall for that one, which kind of sucks. I was hoping to get it delivered, but I missed the window for delivery for before Christmas. So I got to do that next week. Or this weekend, depending. I've been experimenting a lot more with cross-hatching in my inks. I've been studying a lot of Klaus Jansson's work with Frank Miller, and these guys here. So this is Goseki Kojima, who was the artist for the Lone Wolf and Cub. I've been really looking closely at his line work. I was familiar with it, of course. I'm a fan of Lone Wolf and Cub. But lately I've really just been studying artists, I think, more than I have in the past. And both of those guys do a lot of pretty interesting cross-hatching. Which I've always been a fan of. And it has reflected in my work over the years. been looking at Bernie Wrightson's art again, really after watching the new Frankenstein movie that really leans into Bernie Wrightson's illustrations for Frankenstein, which are just insane. Probably his finest work. If you haven't yet, I strongly encourage you to take a look at, well, anything by Bernie Wrightson is astounding. I got to meet Bernie Wrightson very briefly at a Comic-Con back in the 90s. And I recall that he looked pretty much exactly as I pictured he would look. I think he had a red suit on, and his eyebrows were all like bushy and like tilted up like in points, just like one of his characters. I don't know how much of that is how I remember it, but that's my memory of him, was being, I just thought that was amusing that he actually looked like one of those, Cain and Abel characters, or somebody from The Witching Hour or Swamp Thing, or any of that stuff that he did. He's one of those guys that I call too good for comics. He was really just amazing. Fill this in since we changed the light source. I'm going to make this hat mostly black in the center. That is the beauty of inking your own pencils, is you have free rein to change things as needed. This one should be fun to color. There's gonna be I think there's gonna be a lot of really vibrant colors in the space background. That's my plan, anyway. This is actually the first drawing I've done of a likeness in a while. I haven't had to really do much photo referencing for, to do a likeness of somebody. I used to do it quite a bit, and I used to draw portrait art. When I was much younger, I would go to all these different malls. Back then, of course, malls were still quite popular. It was a place that a lot of people shopped at, and I would have a table there with a booth, and I would do commissions, like portrait commissions, and I did those during the Christmas season, typically, because they made a really great, unique gift, and did quite well at that. I don't think there's any market for that now. Malls are kind of a thing of the past. I mean, we still have them, but they're not. I don't think they're great for small vendors. But I learned a lot because I drew a lot of people, and it was live drawing. So it was me. They would sit there, and I would try to quickly render their likeness, which wasn't always easy. So it was a very fast-paced learning experience for me. I think I was about 20, I think. 21. I was very young when I did this. And I think I did it for 2 or 3 years. It was before I broke into comics, so I was doing whatever I could. Just to make money at my craft. I was pretty determined to turn it into a living somehow. So if you're just joining, I am inking a Doctor Who drawing. This is something that will be available for sale over at my eBay store. I am likely going to do a digital color version of it as well. I usually do that. This is the Tom Baker era Doctor Who, if you're at all familiar with Doctor Who. I'm trying to get as much detail and energy into this scarf. It's like the scarf that never ends. But it's such a iconic thing for Doctor Who, so it is important to give it the attention it deserves. So if you're interested in commissioning some art, you can head over to my eBay or Etsy store. I make it super easy to order a commission. You can, there's I think 6 different options, different price tiers, different types of commissions. And I handle any character. And a lot of my commissions include the cover logo. Like this one has the Doctor Who logo on it. And it basically looks like a comic sketch card cover. And they can be either comic book sized, or like this one is 11 by 17, so it's a pretty big page. He's got some crazy curly hair. I think the trick is to make Tom Baker's hair look more like a rock star hair and less like Bob Ross hair. Because it's funny, some pictures you see, it can be either of those two looks. So anyway, like I was saying earlier, I am changing my live stream schedule. I'm going to be doing Mondays and Fridays, 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. Seems to be the best time for me to do these. Not sure how many people are active on Twitch at that time, because to be honest, I don't really look at much on Twitch. I know there's some comic book artists here that are sort of doing their own thing, and that's really my approach too, is just to plug and play. If I happen to have something I'm working on that I think will be fun to share, then I will do that. I also have a Patreon page. There's a link right there in the bottom left corner that pops up, and you can join for free. I post works in progress, process shots. I update various projects that I'm working on. I also have some exclusive digital content there. I've got the first 27 pages of my upcoming comic book mini-series available exclusively right now for Patreon members as a digital download. And that book is called Secret Powers. It is a sequel to Saga of a Doomed Universe. And I expect to be finished with the final issue next year, being just a couple of weeks away, 2026. That's when I'm starting on the last issue. And it takes about a year to complete. They're big books. Each issue is 54 pages. And so they really do look like graphic novels, each chapter. And that was the same format I used for Saga of a Doomed Universe as well. So I just felt like sticking to that format for the sequel seemed appropriate. So anyway, you can check that out over at my Patreon if you're interested. I'll do his plaid shirt last. I'll do the little checkers. Amazon Prime is running classic Doctor Who episodes live on their live station. I've been catching a little bit of it. It's hard because you just jump into the story, and I haven't been able to time it to where I can watch an episode from the beginning. I started watching The Expanse, which is that it's another science fiction show. James Comey wrote the books. I have not read the books yet. I kind of want to because I'm really intrigued. I'm in the third episode now, and the first episode was a little disjointed. I felt like it was a little hard to access it, what was going on and who these characters were. It was just it's just not super cohesive, but by the second episode things really solidified, and I think I'm kind of hooked. I'm really digging it. been trying to find some new science fiction on TV to watch. And I'm reading the Wheel of Time books. I read the first two or first three books back in the 90s when they were first published, but just didn't finish them. I wanted to wait until the entire thing was done, and now that it's finished, I'm starting to read it. I'm about halfway into the first book at the moment, and it's really good. He definitely borrows a lot from Tolkien in the whole premise of that book. There's some things in there that are glaringly influenced, so I'm not sure what to make of that yet. I'm hoping that this thing will have its own identity soon. Robert Jordan is the author. And I've read some of his Conan books. I think all of his Conan books I've read. He was a great Conan writer. Really good. It was very pulpy, kind of fantasy stuff. Very much in vein with the original Robert E. Howard stories. But a little more nuanced. You know, he's got a little more subtlety than Howard had in his writing. All right, there's Doctor Who. Now I've got to work on the background. I'm going to work on this hat a little bit too. Let's get the little checker plaid. I guess my dog is really not liking the activities outside. I am also doing Whatnot shows Monday nights at 7 p.m. Not quite sure what to make of Whatnot yet. I know it takes a long time to really build an audience there. And people that are there are usually looking for really good deals on products. And I kind of feel like I'm already offering really good deals on my commissions and original art prints, all that stuff. So I can't really bring my prices down much for that. But it's an opportunity to connect and to network and to really just kind of put myself out there a little more and share my work. And I enjoy doing it. I enjoy doing these live streams too. I don't have any huge expectations from any of it. But I'm just going to keep doing it. So on Etsy, I'm noticing it seems like a lot of, I don't know if a lot, but there are definitely some artists on there selling commissions that are clearly produced by AI. You know, and they're pricing them at like 20 or 30 bucks. And you can tell that they're not, they are AI generated. You know, they're just, it's pretty easy to tell. And that really, it just really irks me, you know. And it should upset everybody who likes art, you know, not just artists, but anyone who appreciates art and the value of it, and that there are people out there who are literally not artists who are doing this stuff, or if they are artists, they have no excuse. But yeah, it's definitely troubling, to say the least, that that's going on. You know, all my stuff is hand drawn. I do digital art, but that's still drawn by hand. It's just drawn on screen. And I just don't think there's any substitution for that. And hopefully that perception will stick around with people, and they'll understand the value of it. Alright, I think Tom Baker is finished. Now I've got to ink in the TARDIS. So I gotta rinse out my brush. Be right back. Ruler. Need to get some new pins soon, I think. I definitely want to get this right, because I'm sure Doctor Who fans know the TARDIS inside out, so to speak. It's probably no different than Star Trek fans with the Enterprise. You don't want to draw the Enterprise unless you draw it absolutely correctly. Otherwise, you'll hear from the fans that this and this is wrong, then the cells are too far apart, something. The dish is too wide. If I had thought about it, I would have used maybe SketchUp, which is a 3D, it's a very kind of basic 3D modeling tool. It's an app. And I've used it in the past for complicated objects that I wanted to get different angles on. And I'm sure there's a TARDIS on file there that I could probably manipulate, turn to whatever angle I needed and take a picture of that and use. But I did not do that. I went old school. I think I'm going to get a picture of it. I'm just going to wing it for now. I mean, it's pretty much here. So this is a Micron Pigma pen, and it's great for comics because it is what's called archival ink, which means it will not fade over time, just like India ink does not fade. The archival ink should stay pretty dark, solid black for a long time. So it's really it's a really good pen for comics. I do not recommend using Sharpies because the ink turns purple after a few years. You're not going to have that solid black on the original art. I know there were some pretty well-known artists that used Sharpies back in the day when there was not much of a market at all for original art. So they didn't really care, right? I mean, it was not a lucrative market, reselling or selling off original art. Gil Kane was one that comes to mind. A lot of his originals were inked. He inked those with like the large areas. I think he used a Sharpie quite often. I have probably been guilty of it too, but not. I mean, at conventions or whatever. But I don't use that for published work. Some of these lines are so tiny that it's almost easier to freehand them. I don't really even need a ruler. Alright, there's the TARDIS. Now I've got the space to ink. So I can get started on that for just a few minutes before I sign out. I think I mentioned in my other live stream that my space scenes here, this scene I'm really pulling in some concepts from Robert McCall, who was a very just excellent painter who he was commissioned by NASA a lot in the 70s, I think, and 80s to do kind of promotional paintings and things, and it's all very cosmically wondrous. His space scenes, it's just full of a lot of color and energy and clouds, cosmic clouds, and very dramatic shadows on planets, and just really amazing stuff. He also did some movie work. He was one of the concept artists for Star Trek: The Motion Picture in 1979. And you can see his designs for the V'ger alien spacecraft and some of the space scenes there. And I bought his art book many years ago and was just blown away by it, and I still have it. And so I like to use some of his ideas for the comic book stuff, like the space scenes, cosmic scenes. So that's what I'm sort of doing here. Jack Kirby is another artist who had really just supercharged, energetic looking space. Just like all of his work was very supercharged. Well, I am going to wrap things up. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being here. I appreciate your support. If you haven't yet, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my Twitch channel. I am doing the live streams twice a week, Mondays and Fridays, 11 to 12 o'clock a.m. And you can also find me over on Etsy if you're interested in commissioning comic art. Very easy to place an order there. I have a Patreon page, which is also updated twice a week, Thursdays and Fridays. And that includes exclusive previews of upcoming comics, process shots, works in progress. I have some digital content that's exclusive for Patreon members, as well as free custom sketches for Tier 4, I think, Tier 4 members. Lots of cool stuff there. So you can find that on the link at the bottom left, or if you're watching the recorded live stream, just go into the description and you'll see the links to Patreon, my Etsy store, also my eBay store. I sell original art, original comic art, art prints, signed comics. You can find those links there in the description. I'm hoping to get this finished maybe, possibly, over the weekend. We'll see. See how things go. But I made some pretty good progress today. Here's a little tour. Doctor Who, 11 by 17, penciled and inked. This will also be for sale over on my eBay store soon. So watch for that. And that's it, guys. Thanks again. Hope you have an awesome weekend, and I will see you hopefully Monday.